The illusion of knowing the brain. We talk about the brain as if we understand it. We describe it with confidence, a 3-pound organ made of neurons, chemicals, and electrical signals. We imagine it as a biological machine, logical, structured, predictable. But that picture is an illusion. The truth is that the brain is the most misunderstood thing humans have ever studied. Not because it's mysterious in a magical sense, but because we desperately oversimplify it. We treat it as a computer. We treat thoughts as digital commands. We treat emotions as errors. And we treat consciousness as a neat little feature tucked somewhere inside. But the more scientists learn, the more one uncomfortable truth becomes clear. The brain is not what we think it is. And it never was. Not a computer, not even close. The most common misunderstanding is that the brain works like a computer: input, processing, output. This single idea has shaped how society sees intelligence, memory, and even personality. But the brain doesn't have circuits that neatly connect to functions. It doesn't store data like files. It doesn't calculate like a processor. And it never stops rewriting itself, even while you're using it. It's not a machine. It's an ecosystem. Billions of neurons, each behaving like living organisms inside a crowded world, constantly competing, cooperating, or changing alliances. Instead of fixed architecture, the brain is a city under constant construction. And the patterns you experience as you are a temporary arrangement of that living city. Most of what the brain does is hidden. Another huge misunderstanding, that the brain's main job is thinking. But conscious thought is almost nothing. It's the tiny visible tip of a massive hidden structure. More than 90% of what your brain does never reaches your awareness. It regulates organs, filters information, predicts danger, processes memories, adjusts posture, balances hormones, and maintains millions of small corrections every second. The mind you believe you control, the one that forms words and opinions, is simply the narrator of a world already prepared by invisible systems beneath it. Your thoughts are not commands. They are explanations invented after the brain has already acted. The brain doesn't see reality. We also misunderstand what the brain shows us. We think our senses reveal the world exactly as it is, but the truth is harsher. The brain edits reality. Colors aren't actually in objects. Sounds aren't physically inside the air. Smells don't exist outside your mind. They are interpretations, stories the brain constructs based on electrical impulses from sensory organs. Vision is not a perfect camera. Hearing is not a microphone. The brain takes incomplete, noisy data, fills in the blanks, removes details it considers unimportant, and presents a version of reality that is convenient, not accurate. Every second, the world you see is manufactured. Memory is not a recording. People imagine memory as a library of stored experiences. But memory doesn't store the past. It recreates it. Every time you remember something, the brain rebuilds the memory using fragments, and sometimes adds details that never happened. Memories constantly change. The brain edits them for emotional reasons, for survival, for convenience. There is no playback. There is only reconstruction. This means your most cherished memories, your childhood images, your important life events, they are not preserved versions of the past. They are versions rewritten over and over until they become stories you believe. The brain does not remember. It retells. Emotions are not weakness. Another misunderstanding, that emotions are distractions from rational thinking. But emotions aren't the opposite of logic. They are the foundation of it. The brain evolved emotions to guide decisions long before rational thought existed. Fear kept humans alive. Joy helped form bonds. Disgust prevented disease. Even today, you can't make choices without emotional input. People with damage to emotional centers can still think logically, but they can't decide what to eat, what to wear, or who to trust. Emotion is not a flaw. It is the ancient compass of the brain. Thoughts don't appear out of nowhere. We believe that thoughts appear because we decide to think them. But the brain produces thoughts constantly, automatically, without permission. Most thoughts are noise, predictions, simulations, warnings, or leftover fragments of activity. You only notice the ones that rise above that noise. And even then, the brain chooses them before you do. Neuroscience shows that your brain prepares actions milliseconds before you decide to perform them. Free will isn't gone. It just works differently than we assume. You're not the generator of thought. You're the observer, choosing which thoughts to follow. The brain is not one organ, it is many. We speak of the brain as if it's one unified structure, but it's actually many systems layered over millions of years of evolution. You have an ancient reptile brain that only cares about survival, a limbic system that generates emotions, a cortex that analyzes, predicts, and imagines. These systems argue, fight, negotiate, and influence each other. When you feel conflicted, it's not psychological, it's biological. Multiple brains inside your skull are disagreeing about what to do. Your experience of life is the result of a constant internal negotiation. The brain is a prediction machine. Another misunderstood truth. The brain does not react to the world, it predicts it. Before you see something, your brain has already guessed what it will be. Before you hear a sound, it predicts the source. Before you feel pain, it predicts the level of danger. The world you experience is a controlled hallucination where your brain's predictions meet the incoming signals. This is why you sometimes see shapes that aren't there, hear your name in noise, or jump at shadows. The brain isn't malfunctioning, it's predicting too quickly. Prediction is the core function of the mind. Intelligence is not what we think. We misunderstand intelligence by measuring it through logic, memory, or academic skill. But intelligence in the brain is nothing like an IQ score. Real intelligence is adaptability, the ability to change strategies, rewire behaviors, and rethink beliefs. A person who can adjust to new environments, learn from mistakes, and remain flexible is far more intelligent, in a biological sense, than someone who solves equations but cannot adapt socially or emotionally. Intelligence is not knowledge. It is survival, and the brain evolved to survive, not to pass tests. The brain depends on the body. A major misunderstanding is that the brain controls the body from above. But the relationship is two-way. The body constantly sends signals that shape thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. Anxiety can come from breathing too fast. Sadness can come from lack of sunlight. Anger can come from hunger. Confidence can come from physical posture. The brain is not separate from the body, it is part of it. You don't think with just your brain. You think with your whole nervous system. Consciousness is not one thing. People imagine consciousness as a bright spotlight, a single voice, a unified experience. But consciousness is fragmented. It flickers, shifts, narrows, widens. When you lose track of time, when you daydream, when you drive home without remembering the road, your consciousness wasn't turned off. It simply moved elsewhere. The mind drifts through many states, some focused, some scattered, some empty, some introspective, and none of them are less real. Consciousness is not a place. It's a changing pattern. The brain is never finished. Many believe the brain stops developing after childhood, but the brain continues changing even in old age. Every experience rewires connections. Every habit reshapes circuits. Every thought strengthens or weakens pathways. Even trauma doesn't just damage, it reorganizes. The brain you have today is not the one you had 5 years ago, and it won't be the one you'll have in the future. The mind is not a fixed identity. It is a lifelong construction project. You are not oneself. Perhaps the most misunderstood truth. You are not a single self. The version of you in the morning is not the same as the version that exists when you're stressed, tired, excited, or calm. Your behavior changes with mood, environment, hormones, memories, and context. The self is not a character. It is a collection of mental states that take turns being in control. What we call personality is a pattern, not a constant. You are many versions sharing the same brain. The brain creates meaning, not truth. Humans misunderstand their thoughts as objective truths. But the brain doesn't care about truth. It cares about meaning, patterns that help you survive. This is why we find faces in clouds, meaning in coincidences, and purpose in random events. The brain organizes chaos into stories because stories help us navigate life. The brain isn't built for truth. It's built for survival, and meaning is one of its strongest tools. The brain is a storytelling machine. In the end, the biggest misunderstanding is this. We think we use the brain, but the brain uses stories to make sense of the world, and we are simply the listener. Your identity is a story. Your beliefs are stories. Your memories, fears, dreams, and hopes. They're all narratives stitched together from countless signals and predictions. The brain is not a machine, not a computer, not a calculator. It is a storyteller, and the story it tells is you. Thanks for listening. The mind holds many silent mysteries, and we've only opened one. Subscribe, and we'll uncover the next one together.